the big switch. Gray can't keep it in. It goes out, and that is it. In 2025, Vermont is the king of soccer. And the Vermont Green win their first ever USL2 title. And green is the color of victory once again in Burlington, Vermont.
I don't know how Mike does it, so we're just gonna completely cut it off. But what is going on, everybody? I am not Mike Popovich. I do not have an amazing beard. It is Sam Ladoff. Here tonight, we got a very special guest here for this episode of United in Green. A very important episode as the U.S. Open Cup is right around the corner. Lovely Mart Soccer up in Burlington, Vermont. But I'll start off first. The returning champion, the man who roots for the wrong team in France, Tyson. How's it going, Tyson?
This is a beautiful Marseille shirt that, yes, I know that Sam was making fun of me calling it Prison FC earlier, but you know what? You know who they had on their team years and years ago that I got to see light up East London for a very brief period? That was Dimitri Payet. And Dimitri Payet was a beautiful wizard with the ball. We got him from Marseille. I will always kind of love Marseille for that. But that is why I've got this beautiful white and light blue kit on. Yeah, Sam, it's getting cold again. I was out in my hoodie and vest earlier. Fucking cold.
Yes, very cold, very cold. A place is not cold. Charleston. Might be cool. I don't know. Our guest can tell us. A man who is also magic on the ball. Nathan Messer, the man who has played for a large majority of clubs in New England. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to join you guys. I'm excited to be here, man. And yeah, it is not as cold. I can assure you, it is not as cold in Charleston as it is in the Northeast. Yeah.
Good to hear. But Nathan would love to kind of talk about what you've been up to in your career, especially post Vermont Green. I think would love to begin by talking about your season with the Portland Hearts of Pine, obviously Vermont's opponent in the U.S. Open Cup. Just what was that season like for you? It seemed like you were really able to find your form and really excel up in Portland. So just overall, how do you reflect on your time with the Hearts?
Yeah, man, it was truly a magical time, to be honest. Like, it's truly such a great season, one that I'm going to cherish forever. Definitely, gave me vibes of that first year I had with Vermont Green. And yeah, it was truly amazing to see how the kind of community bought into the team. I didn't, as I didn't know what to expect in Burlington, I didn't know what to expect in Portland. And I came up there, and it was, it was truly amazing to see how supportive the community was. And, we had an amazing fan base last year. I'm really hoping to see the same thing this year. I have no doubts that it will be the same again. And yeah, personally, I just felt like, I really got the chance to just play my own soccer and get a run of consistent games in and kind of show, what the type of player I am and kind of, go from there, So just I kind of took it game by game. Every game left it all out on the field. And, that was kind of my goal, focus on each game as they come. And I kind of, put together a strong body of work, I felt like, by the end of the season. So, I was kind of proud of that.
And, you talked about being able to go out there and play your natural game. It seemed like it took a little while for, obviously a new expansion team to kind of gel together and click together. But when it really started clicking, I will admit that I did watch a bunch of these Hearts games. We're being a little bit more edgy because we're playing them, next week. We want to not admit that that we like this team, but I watched a lot of Hearts games, and head coach Bobby Murphy put together a really fun, a really entertaining attacking system up there. and it just really seemed like you were able to, you know, you especially hit the ground running and just kind of thrive in that really attacking role. Um, how much of that was, you were kind of ready for that from the get-go, or how much of that was like, okay, we need to really kind of figure out what we're doing and play within that system?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's a bit of both, to be honest. Like, I think, listen, like, I think I'm always comfortable in when I'm asked to attack. Like, that's not something that, like, am uncomfortable with. I definitely actually enjoy that. So, when I was being asked to kind of get forward and support the attack, that was something that I for sure was willing to do. And that being said, like like the other side to that is the especially the attacking side of it. Um, attacking is often so much more complex than defending. Defending, if you get 11 guys bought into a system, you can and spend some time on it, you can get that down. Attacking is so much of it is free flowing creativity that relationships matter a lot more. And I felt like early on in this defensively, I think we did a great job, and I think that was one of the goals that we had as a team, and Coach Bobby had for us was to be defensively solid early on because the attacking side of things is going to take a little bit longer, and we definitely weren't as strong. Uh, so yeah, it took a little bit longer for us to kind of build those connections as it does at every club. I mean, yeah, I would say it was the same at Vermont, honest. And but it's one of those things that this like the Hearts my third expansion side. It was like I kind of was expecting like there are always going to be road bumps, and there's going to be road bumps whether you're an expansion or not. So it wasn't something that was concerning me. And yeah, it was definitely it was definitely a process, but I think by the end of it, really got to saw the fruition of what I think Coach Bobby wanted a Portland Hearts of Pine team to look like.
Yeah, and I guess you mentioned your experience with expansion clubs. Obviously, it's kind of top of mind. Just the stability of clubs. With what happened down in Georgia. I guess with your experience, you kind of get a sense. In those early days of, oh, things are being run correctly. Oh, there seems to be a good structure, and you kind of can get a sense on the playing side as well. Like, oh, we have a good system. We have the right players to potentially succeed.
Yeah, listen. In terms of like in terms of organization, I can't really, I don't really know. I can't really tell you much, just because simply because I've been part of like all organizations. Like I mean, Vermont Green, the top USL 2 side, Rhode Island, who like built an amazing stadium. Uh, Portland is probably doing things the best way in League One. So I don't really have much information in that regard in terms of like organization, but like I definitely had a feel that when I walked into those places, like something special was going on, Um, and also like in terms of a team, I think you can. I think honestly that's one of the tougher things. I think every year, every team in USL, whether they're expansion or not, walks in not really knowing where they're staying, where they stand. You play a lot of friendlies against MLS Next Pro sides, against college sides, even UPSL sides, and then some teams from your division. But it's always tough to gauge, right? And that's one of the biggest things coming out of preseason is like you're just itching to know whether how you compare it to kind of the other teams in the league. And that's always something that was on my mind. I think with Vermont it was a little bit different. I think from the get go, from my experience in USL 2 prior, like I knew we were going to be a very good team, and I think the onus was kind of on us to see how good we could be. But with the other teams, it's like one of those things where you only really know once you get going.
And speaking of getting going, your kind of first stop professionally after leaving Vermont, um, a maybe not as good experience as you may have wanted playing wise in terms of being with Rhode Island. Um, you know, you did have that great goal in the Open Cup, which, you know, all of us in the Green Mountain Boys Slack were cheering on. That was an awesome strike. Um, but, you know, after being able to really kind of find your footing and really excel in League One with Hearts, you know, do you feel like this time around going into the championship with the Battery, do you feel like a, if not maybe more confidence, but maybe that you really have your kind of feet under you going into this new season with, you know, very much the expectation that you are going to be a big part of this team?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You know, like I think Rhode Island was a very like good experience for me. I think you know, something I probably needed. However, that being said, like I left there with, you know, like something approved, and I felt I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind, and you know, like you know, it was something that I always kind of had in the back of my mind as I was playing last year with Portland, not necessarily thinking, you know, I'm gonna, you know, get back to the USL Championship the year after the next year. But it was something that, you know, like I definitely hung on to a little bit, you know, without any kind of bitterness whatsoever. Just me wanting to kind of prove myself, right? And you know, having that opportunity with Charleston definitely makes me, you know, want to prove that, you know, I can play at this level, and you know, given the right circumstances, I can be a very successful player, right? And yeah, I think that last year at Portland did give me a lot of confidence to know that, you know, I can do it at this, at least in the professional level, you know, like that's one of the things that, you know, you never quite know coming out of college, coming out of USL2 is like how you're going to translate to the professional level. And that first year was definitely tough, but I think I kind of found my feet, as you said, in Portland. And, you know, now, you know, really looking to kind of kick on and see what I can do here at Charleston.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, you kind of talked similarly about, you know, kind of the vibes when it comes to the fans and the overall atmosphere between Portland and Vermont. I'd love to just maybe kind of get your impressions of what was it like playing in front of those fans? What was the atmosphere like at Fitzy? And just how do you kind of, now that you're with Charleston, look back at your time with Portland?
Yeah, honestly, those clubs is nothing but positive vibes, man. And I take great honor in the fact that I'm the only guy who's played for the both clubs so far. So, yeah, and I think like two of the best clubs in the U.S. to be honest. So, I can't wait for that game. I will be fully locked in for that, fully tuned in. I think when is the game on Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday,
It is
it's on
on
St.
Tuesday,
Patrick's Day.
CBS Sports too.
Good. Because I have a game on the Wednesday, so I'll be able to fully tune into that. So yeah, I honestly can't wait for that. Like, listen, like the experience was great at both clubs. I definitely got. I kept saying, you know, at Portland, like I kept feeling, like the Vermont vibes from the first year, kind of the excitement behind the team and all that. Um, you know, like I would say, Portland was like a little bit bigger version of Vermont, and not in the sense of like, you know, like I'm not saying Vermont is any smaller of a club than Portland. I'm just saying in terms of like the actual people that they could fit in the ground, for example. And you know, that's one of the things I really wish we could see Vermont like fit maybe even more people into their ground, and actually same as Portland, to be honest. You know, like I really think like, you know, an 8,000, a 10,000 seat, you know, like why not, you know, especially for a game like this. I think yeah, this is one of those games that is gonna, like I don't think there's a better matchup in North America in American soccer right now. I think it's true. Like I'd rather watch that than an MLS game, to be honest. So I truly can't wait to see that. Yeah, I think it's gonna be something. And honestly, the other side to that is obviously I can't wait to see the soccer, but I can't wait to see the fans going at it from both sides. So yeah, it's gonna be some fun.
Now, I mean, speaking of this game, you obviously you're with your new club, but how much, like, was it ever like a bit of a gut shot to know that you were not going to be able to play in this game? Because I don't remember, was this game announced before or after you had gone down to Charleston?
Before.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but it definitely made me think twice about moving. Like it was like, uh, that was like one of the big factors. I was like, if I could move after the game, that'd be great. Like I like, yeah, I can't. When I saw the game being announced, I was like, wow, like that's gonna be like I said, I think it's gonna be the biggest game in American soccer, like at least in the open, at least that round of the Open Cup, you know. So, yeah, like like I truly wish that is one game where I can truly say I wish I could play in that game. It's gonna be an awesome atmosphere, and I know that I truly think that every person there will feel how special it is, you know. So whether it's a player or a fan, yeah, I'm excited to see. And honestly, I think it will be a good matchup. You know, the interesting thing is that I kind of, you know, you can kind of predict what Portland's going to come out with we have honestly, like, you know, it's players being announced and all that. You know, you have no idea. I have no idea how Vermont's going to look like, right? With players coming back for the Open Cup, or you know how the 11's going to shape out to be, you know. So I think it will be a very interesting game. But yeah, we'll see how it shakes out.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, for you as a player, just what's it like to have the ability to play in a tournament, like the US Open Cup, very historic. The ability to, whether it's Vermont going up against a professional team, or, you have all these cup sets happening. Just what's it like to maybe play in a tournament with so much history that kind of goes beyond the pyramid, if you will, and it's just all about, the different soccer communities in America getting a chance to kind of go up against one another.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. You know, like I think the Open Cup is truly such a special tournament. Like it gives, like you said, guys who are not playing professionally the opportunity to compete against professionals. That's something that, you know, like I experienced last year, for example, with Portland. We played an amateur side in the first round, and you know I could tell how much they wanted, and I'm going to experience again this year with Charleston, and I'm really excited to do that. And on the flip side of that is like us as lower league professionals, we get to potentially play against the very best in the country with MLS sides. And so that's a huge motivating factor, and it's funny. Like I've been on the end of both. Like I was on the end of a cup set with Rhode Island where we got beat by Charlotte Independence, and that sucked. But on the flip side, I remember we beat Hartford last year in a penalty shootout. That was one of the most amazing experiences I've had. So, it always brings out a lot of emotions. The Open Cup, it brings out the very best in U.S. soccer, and honestly, I can't wait to compete this year with Charleston.
And, maybe this is just because, all of us here who are talking right now, we're kind of very invested in the, quote unquote, lower leagues in the US, or what people call the lower leagues in the US, which I think is kind of bullshit anyway. But like, what would you say to, someone who's a fan of purely just like an MLS side, who, a lot of the fans for the MLS teams, sorry Sam, see the Open Cup as just kind of an inconvenience. They have to go to places like, and play, was it CD Valencia, who you guys played? Yeah. Who you guys played, or like they've got to go to, I think that your upcoming opponent in the Open Cup is a team called Badgers, according to Mob.
Yeah.
But so, like, what do you say to a fan who may be watching this, who like really isn't that invested in the Open Cup? Like, what does it mean to you as a player, and like, what does it mean to the fans for like the team you play for Charleston?
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like you can look at it however you want, but it's another opportunity to get a trophy. And I mean, if you're an MLS fan, like, look, like your team is one of I don't know how many, but like 32. I'm saying, like I don't quite know them. I think it's 32. One of 32 sides that's competing for the MLS title. So chances are that you're probably not gonna win it, right? And so the U.S. Open Cup is another opportunity for you to do that. And I think us as players, like, silverware is everything, right? Like that's the memories we're gonna make it by the end of our career. And I think there's a good. I think one of the things that the Open Cup has always given is outrageous matchups, right? Like games that like 3-3s, going to penalties, penalty shootouts. Like the most entertaining version of U.S. soccer is the Open Cup. Like there's all to play for. And you get to see, like all types of talent, right? Like every year you see teams, you see upsets, and you see like talents that are, very much at the level of the other like the higher division competing and getting the better of the side. So I think it's just such an interesting time of the year, like I truly think it's like the best equivalent of March Madness, that we have, right? So it's like it's really like a special time, So yeah, I would say like if you want to watch some entertaining soccer, then you should probably tune in,
Yeah, no, there's some absolutely amazing atmospheres. Like for me personally, I remember when Hartford came to Gillette Stadium and there was a bunch of Hartford fans there. Absolutely loved that. And obviously, I know through talking with my colleagues Seth about you guys up in Portland banging on the locker room up in Lewiston High School. So it just creates these amazing atmospheres. And I mean, obviously, I talked to you before the move ended up happening. I would love to just kind of get maybe just what kind of prompted this move to Charleston. Obviously, getting the opportunity to play pro is a big driver, but just how did it kind of all come about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like about like it came out kind of out of nowhere, to be honest. Like it came. We were about to start preseason and kind of got a phone call, and then like a deal, kind of that Charleston was interested, and then from there it kind of snowballed really, and it came really quick, and it kind of ended up being a decision that I had to make. And at the end of the day, like with like I love Portland. In another world, I think I could have stayed there my entire career, but I want to get out the absolute most that I can out of my career, and Charleston's one of those places that I have always wanted to play at. One, for their style of play; two, for how they compete every year in the USL. I mean, last year, the past few years, they've been one of the top teams in USL Championship. So I just felt like with where I want to take my career, and I really want to get the absolute most out of it. I felt like this is an opportunity I really couldn't pass up, and that I'd be kicking myself if I did. So yeah, it kind of, I think, it was a tough decision, but at the end of the day, I think it was definitely the right one, and I think it was the only decision for me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I truly, like I said, like I truly like was very grateful that it came through, and I'm very excited for the season ahead, and like I've been enjoying my time so much so far. So, yeah, I think, I hopefully I made the right decision, but I think I really have.
Now, this is going to be the first time in a couple of years that you're going to be outside of New England.
Yeah,
in terms of living. Like, what is going to be the number one thing that you're going to miss from being up in this neck of the woods now that you're down south?
Definitely the weather. No. But honestly, maybe the summers. Honestly, maybe the summer weather. Like it's maybe the only place in the U.S. that's not unbearably hot. So I'll say that. But I mean, honestly, for me, it's the people. It's like the people of New England is what makes it special to me. Yeah, I just think it's a whole different mindset, a whole different kind of way of life. Sometimes people from New England can be harsh, but they'll always be direct and they'll always help you. And I truly, I truly had such an awesome time and built so many amazing connections there that at the end of the day, like those are the people that I'm gonna miss, right? Like friends, so many friendships and so many, like acquaintances, colleagues, just people, fans I've met. Like it's just such an amazing area, and truly gonna miss it. But like hopefully I'll be able to visit, and like I spend a lot of my off season there now with the connections I've made.
Yeah, and I mean now, kind of getting to your time with Vermont, maybe looking back at it. Would love to just kind of hear, how you've been able to kind of keep up with the club, and especially last season, being able to win a USL2 championship. What was that like to maybe get to witness from afar, slightly afar, with only being in Portland, but what was it like to be able to kind of, see your former club being able to lift a trophy and win it all?
Yeah, awesome. Like it was really so awesome. Like the way Vermont did games, they were so good, and the atmosphere's insane. Like, yeah, it was truly such a good thing to see. Like for me, like I I I I nowadays, I only know a few of the players, right? Like I'm a few years removed, so like I still know obviously like Zach Zengi, was so happy for him. Musa, for example, but like for me, the majority of the happiness came for the owners, and Pfeiffer and Chris, like the kind of the people at the club. It's because I know how hard they've worked at this, and how how much they put into it, and it truly it made me emotional seeing. I was just so happy to see that, because they truly deserve it. And I felt like one of the things with Vermont is that I never felt like we truly matched the expectation that we had put on ourselves as players, and as a club, right? Like I think we always had great squads, and we never quite reached the levels that I think we should have, which was in and around that title race. Like I always thought we should be around that, and we were never quite there. So yeah, I'm really glad to see that the club has finally got to that stage. And I'm excited to see how this next year goes. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to see like just the future of this club.
Now, I mean, I think that it's kind of interesting to see where you've gone kind of on your professional journey. Like you said, you were one of the very earliest players to play for Vermont Green. Vermont has always kind of prided itself on trying to be a like as close to a professional experience that you will have as a player while still being in the USL2, the pre-professional league. How much of your experience at Vermont do you think really kind of, along with obviously all of your other hard work, all of your other effort, your games that you had all throughout your college career, like how much did Vermont kind of aid in kind of building you that runway to kind of get you to where you are now?
Oh, I mean, it was massive. Like I can tell you, there's literally a direct link to me being a pro and me going to Vermont. I mean, I was at William and Mary in the CAA, and while I think we were a very good program when I first came in as a freshman, we the program has just deteriorated over the years, and I would describe us as I would have described us as a top 100 program, even a top 75 program in the country, when I first came in, and now like I truly can't say that. And so it was very tough, because I always had these goals of going pro, and initially I kind of thought I was at the school to kind of make that happen, while also um, getting playing time as a freshman, getting playing time as a sophomore, which can be very tough at bigger schools. And so I thought I was in the right environment, and then I kind of realized at some point, without trying to offend too much my school, but like I kind of realized at some point that I had to either make a change or get some visibility through USL2, which is how I ended up getting in contact with Vermont. And with after my season at Vermont, I got some good interest from different schools for my fifth year. And I ended up coming to Providence, and the Providence head coach is the brother-in-law of Adam Pfeiffer. So that was direct. That's how he saw me play, right? Like he saw me play Vermont, and then the coaching staff of Rhode Island, being in Providence, they came to all the Providence games. So there's a direct link to kind of my path to becoming a professional. But in terms of not just the connections, but also I think in terms of it helped me with my confidence. Like knowing that I could play with the very top talents in the country. It helped me in handling my routine as a professional. Like Vermont is one of those USL2 sides where we train in the mornings. The expectation is that even though you're not earning any money, that the soccer is the reason why you're there, right? And so it really just encouraged me to be a professional in every aspect of my day.
Yeah, and when you maybe look back at your time in Vermont, is there one maybe moment, one game that kind of stands out to you and maybe lives in your mind a little bit more? And whenever you maybe think about the club, there's that one moment that stands out.
Yeah, I honestly have like three. To be honest, I can't decide between. I have the Western Pioneers game when we won when they were qualified for the playoffs. That was Deepan Wegbo, my very good friend. Yeah, what a goal! That was massive. And then Lionsbridge, that right after beating them with 10 men, insane. That was truly such a cool experience. So those two games I really enjoyed, and then I would say one that really was for some reason just like almost emotional. Like it was so awesome. Was the first game of that second year, because I think everybody kind of recognized by the end how special it was. Nobody wanted it to end, but it did, right? And then we had to wait another 9 months for the next home game to happen, and the next home game was like even more special. Like it was like stadium was bouncing, everyone was so excited, and I think we ended up winning like 3-0 or something like that. But against like an Albany Rush side, but it was truly like such a cool experience. Like I remember thinking like, wow, I'm so grateful to be a part of this club.
Well, and kind of speaking about being a uh, like an early adopter, someone who kind of took a chance on coming to this new team in a podunk city in the second least populous state in the entire country. you know Obviously, like players like you, like Deba, like Ethor, um Jake Ashford, who kind of really, I always like kind of look at those kind of early squads as kind of the players who kind of built the bedrock of, this is the like minimum expectation of what you as a player are coming into Vermont to do. And like you will come and you will run your ass off. You will love every minute of it. You're going to have fans chanting your name, and you're not going to get that anywhere else in the USL2 that's like that. How does it make you feel to kind of be a part of that kind of almost like initial legacy for this team?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a huge factor of pride. Like yeah, like one, like obviously I get to say that I was a part of like the best club in USL2, but not only that, honestly, like one of the best teams in USL, like one of the best teams in terms of just the overall organization, and I would say the entirety of USL. Yeah, so it definitely feels very special. It's crazy to see how in a short few years how much the club has grown. And yeah, like I truly cherish those memories, and at the end of the day, like that's why I play this game at the professional level. Like it's to hold on to these memories, like playing in front of no fans, like that's, yeah, it's just like I don't know if I could do it for that much longer, just because that's not the whole reason why I play this game is because of the supporters and the amazing experiences you have on these game days. It's so much more than just the soccer. Like you really feel like you're making a difference to the community, right? And that's always something that I felt, that especially in the Northeast. You know, we were making a difference in people's days, especially people's weekends, and yeah, I always kind of look forward to that. And yeah, like I take, you know, like my time with Vermont, I take it with immense pride. You know, like it's something that I look back on and just, you know, I'm so proud to have been a part of that group and to have been selected to be a part of that group. You know, and I think a lot of the players that like I'm also. I think one of the things that Vermont Green has been so good about has been getting guys to the next level. Like, you know, I'm one of the uh, number of guys, and honestly, guys who have gone on to do much, you know, much more, be much more successful than I have in this sport, and that's just a huge honor, right? Seeing guys getting drafted, seeing guys like Aitor now in the Scottish Premier League, like you know, the things like that. It's just insane. So I take that with huge pride. You know, the fact that I got to play with some of these guys. You know.
Definitely, and I remember talking with Reed Fisher, who played on the team 2 years ago, and whether it's MLS next or in the USL system, it's almost like there's this camaraderie and just kind of this common bond that you're able to make now.
Yeah.
With how many players have been able to go pro, and you can link up and be like, oh, I was there, in this year, and what have
Yeah.
you. And I mean, for you having kind of been on the ground floor, like Tyson said, did you get an inkling that it could become this thing where, for this Open Cup game, there was over 10,000 requests to buy tickets. Women's team just launched and they had 7,000 requests, I believe, for season tickets. Did you kind of see uh, the seeds and kind of the plants starting to grow that is kind of the Vermont soccer community? Did you see that in those early days?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, from the first second, like you know, I remember my first phone call with Pfeiffer about coming up to Vermont. You know, like I didn't know anything about Vermont, but he was like, you know, we're expecting like a decent, like we're expecting a really good fan base, and I was like, okay, like we'll see, right? And I remember the first game like completely blew everybody out the park, right? Like nobody expected it to be as cool as it was. And so, yeah, like I think I also the other cool side of that is that I got to see I think the club grow game by game. Like I think the atmosphere in that first game took us all by surprise, and we thought, you know, like our expectation was here, and you know, the first game was like here. By the end of the season, it was like here, right? So it was like, you know, it kind of defied the expectations that we had for USL2 side, right? Like we, as much as we, you know, like I was expect like as much as I've been told about the fans and how you know good of an atmosphere it could be. I was also in my head thinking, look, like we're not a professional side. Like don't expect anything crazy. But it really was a side that you know like is gained a professional type support, right? So yeah, and I would say in terms of like the community, I could definitely tell. I mean, I think you know, and I'm going to speak a little bit more broadly. I think the Vermont, like Maine, like area, even New Hampshire, like I think from my experience there, I think the youth soccer scene is a little bit underdeveloped, and there's a bit of a yearning for one these clubs, but also two like kind of these role models to kind of help in the community and help grow the sport. Um, and yeah, like I think you know, like from my time in Vermont, like I was already helping out with coaching. I think it was like Nordic at the time, and I could tell like these kids are so motivated to learn. And then, you know, last year I kind of got to see on a broader scale with Portland, like with a 4 year, I really got to, you know, kind of see the community and experience it year round. And you know, I had so many teammates that. Uh, Including me that you know got to have a lot of clients of personal training and things like that. And I think you know like I'm from the DC area, and I think that's really hard to do down there because it's just such a saturated market. And I think there's not quite that in the you know upper New England area, maybe towards Boston, Providence, maybe. But I think you know like I the thing that makes me so excited is that I think there's another boom. You know, I think there's local talent that is ready to come in have an impact, right? Because that's one of the things that, like I think both Portland and Vermont could maybe look for in the future is to have maybe a little bit more homegrown talent, right? Guys who are really local to the community, who grew up in that community, be the superstars of that team, And I think we're like maybe a few years away from that happening. So I'm really excited to see that.
Speaking of Portland, let's get down to kind of the real knife and dagger questions, because there's always, between Burlington and Portland. Portland has often been described, to me anyway, as being someone who lives in Vermont, as basically Burlington, except a little bit bigger and on the ocean as opposed to on Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
I mean, like, everything is so very similar. Both states have a huge, Quebecois diaspora. There's a whole bunch of French and Irish and like Scottish folks who are kind of everywhere around there. Obviously, Portland's a little bit bigger of a city, but very much the same kind of vibes as Burlington in my experience. And like, I've been to Portland a ton. I used to vacation all the time in Maine with my family. We'd go and like be up just south of like Bar Harbor and stuff like that. We always used to go there as kids. But like, kind of, what are your kind of real connections between Portland and kind of Burlington as cities that you've spent a lot of time in?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like you said, like you kind of hit it the nail on the head there. I would say there are some differences. Like I would say Burlington's a lot more isolated in terms of what's around it, right? Like I think, you're very quickly, when you get outside of Burlington, you're very quickly, in the middle of nowhere, for lack of better terms. But that also adds to how special Burlington is, right? Like it adds to the unique factor. And yeah, I think, there's the similarities are this is that, like I think the people are very similar in their mindsets in terms of they're both spots that get an increase of people, an influx of people during the summers and during the times of nice weather, and people hang out at Lake Champlain and people hang out at the ocean in Portland. But there's kind of like a little bit of a resentment there, right? That these people haven't been through the harsh months of the winter, right? And so like I can definitely see those connections there. Yeah, I would say Portland is a little bit bigger version of, like, it's a little bit bigger than Burlington, but not that much either. Like it's not like it's like, let's not act like Portland's massive either. Like they're very similar in size. But yeah, like I think the lake is so big in Burlington that it kind of does feel like the ocean. But yeah, I would say that there's a lot more similarities than I think people would like to admit to. Yeah. But honestly, they're two awesome places. So it's like, if you could put me in either spot, and like I really enjoyed my time at both places. So I haven't experienced Burlington in the winter. That's one thing I'll say. I have experienced Portland in the winter, and it's brutal. But yeah, it's both are great spots.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Open Cup game, Tyson can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're looking at feels like temperatures in the teens, so that will be a lovely weather to play soccer in. And I mean, if Tyson's breaking out the sharp questions, I will as well.
Right.
Obviously, I won't ask who you're rooting for, but
Right.
as someone who can maybe analyze the game and has gone up against, had the battles between lower and higher sides. Who do you think, as an analyst, a pure soccer analyst,
Right.
who do you think will win this matchup?
Yeah, that's the question of all questions, right? Yeah, it's just it. So I'll give you a prediction, but I'm gonna first like tell you that I really have no idea, and that's an honest truth. Just
Yeah.
because like if you ask me this question in 3-4 days, maybe I'd have a better answer for you, because we'll have seen Portland in their first game. Like the thing is like, so I have no idea what to expect from Portland, but I also have, but like I kind of I know how Bobby wants to play, and obviously I have a lot of teammates on that team, so somewhat can see maybe the pattern that it's gonna end up being. But I have no idea what to expect from Vermont, right? Like, I don't know any of the players that are going to be playing in this game. I so what I think is going to happen is, I knowing Chris, as a coach, I think he's a very realistic guy. So I think he's gonna be very pragmatic about how he approaches the game. So I think Portland is going to be dominating most of the possession. And I think Vermont will try and hit them on the counter. Yeah, so I think Portland will honestly. I think Portland will squeeze out a win. Just because, like, even though this is an amateur versus pro game, right? And like a cup set could always happen, like Vermont has in the past. I think this game is like Portland truly. Like, if I was still Portland, I would treat this game with just as much regard as I would any other game, if not more. Right? Like, this is a game as a player that you take so seriously, and you're not looking down on your opponent because like this is a rivalry game, right? So I think Portland will not take it lightly. So I think Portland is probably just going to edge it out, because also it's just the odds are stacked against Vermont, man. Like, you're bringing a group of guys that don't know each other, that are going to practice for a few days, but you never know. Like, that's the beauty of the cup. So I'll say that. But I think in terms of like the expectation of a game, I think it's going to be. I think it will explode at some point. So I think like it will be cagey at first, but I think it will open up, especially the way Portland likes to play. Like, we played a very aggressive pressing style of play, which I think will be, very much on show against Vermont. Like, I think every time Vermont will have the ball, I think Portland will try and be in their faces. And I kind of expect the same from Vermont when Portland kind of advances the ball forward, and kind of Vermont's in more of maybe a low block or a mid block. So yeah, we'll see. We'll kind of see. But I've thought about it a bit, and at the end of the day, I'm excited to just see how the game goes, and be able to kind of just enjoy the game.
Yeah, and before Tyson goes, I just have to say, Tyson, I think we got to get Nathan a TV job, because that was an amazing analysis right there. So thank you for that, Nathan.
Well, and I was going to say, you kind of basically described the last time Vermont won a game in the Open Cup against Lexington, where they basically played on the counter. They worked a lot on set pieces over the 3 or 4 days that the players had to get together. Took 3 goals off of back post corners, and that sunk those Kentucky boys, who were not excited about playing in like weather in the teens. So yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a cagey game.
Yeah. I will say, I think players will be early doors. Players will be a little nervous, things like that. There might be a few mistakes, so it will be interesting to see if either team can take advantage of people's mistakes. But yeah, man, I'm just excited to be able to watch this as a fan. A little disappointed I'm not going to be there, but like I'll be excited to watch it as a fan nonetheless.
Yeah, Nathan, this would be probably the last question for me. Don't know if Tyson has anything else, but I guess what would I think I might have asked this before, but I would love to ask it again. Just what is your message, kind of to the Vermont Green faithful, and just how much have they meant to you on your journey throughout your career?
No, I mean, honestly, like, really so thankful for the Vermont Green faithful. Like, I think, like, you guys saw me at the very start of my career, and I truly think in some ways, like, that was the start of my professional career. Like, that was the first kind of instance where I truly felt like a professional soccer player. So in that regard, I kind of see it almost as, in some ways, as my first professional experience. And like, the memories I have there, I'll remember forever. I haven't been able to go back, and I truly wish I can. But just from another thing is just from the messages I keep getting to this day from Vermont Green faithful. You know what I mean? Like I still get messages from people nowadays, and I'm truly so grateful for that. You know, like not to have been just forgotten and just one another player. You know, like the thing is, there's so much turnover year to year, especially with USL 2, that like I just think it's truly so special how like the Vermont Green faithful remembers each and every one of the players that has represented them. You know, and that's something I truly appreciate. And yeah, like I just my one ask is that you guys keep going and keep supporting this club as much as possible.
So, the final truly hard-hitting question that I have for you, Nate. What is the correct and proper order for a creamy in Vermont? What is it?
Yeah,
What's your answer?
I only ever got one creamy in Vermont. I don't even remember like the flavors. What were the flavors?
It is maple,
Yes.
vanilla,
Yeah.
or chocolate. Those are the three.
I got maple.
Okay, you got the right one. That is the
It has to be maple, right? Like
You gotta get. I haven't got one either, Tyson. So you can bring one to the open cup.
Oh my god.
no, I got one. I got one. It took me a while to realize how special it was to the Vermont to the Vermont community. But once I knew, I was like, okay, I have to do this. But I got maple. Yes, I remember that being being distinctly told to get that. So I was like, but I haven't been able to compare. That's the thing. So.
You already had greatness. So Tyson, I'm expecting a maple creamy when I get to Burlington on Tuesday. But Nathan, really do appreciate it. Best of luck down in Charleston. Now, Tyson, final thoughts. You will be the final words on this podcast. Besides our send off, what do you want to leave the people with?
Well, leaving the people with, these fond thoughts. It's a kind of gross, cold, and ugly world out there. Especially right now, we've got to all kind of get together, enjoy these beautiful third spaces, that being able to go to a soccer match, watch something that, ultimately doesn't really mean that much in the long run. But you know what? It is fun. It is a way to get out there, come together as a community, cheer on great players like Nathan Messer, to just go out and enjoy ourselves. And that is beautiful. That is fun. And, it's what we need.
You nailed it. No better words to send this off. I am not going to try and be Mike and play outro music. So this is the United in Green podcast. Once again, thanks to Nathan for joining us. We hope you all do well. And see you on Tuesday. And last but not least, up the green.
Up the green.
Up the green.